What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at another one of the recently added Ultra Beasts to Pokemon Go, Blacephalon. This time in the Ultra League, as unfortunately, currently there is no way to get it for the Great League. Now if you check this Pokemon's ranking for the Ultra League on PvPoke, you'll find that it actually doesn't even have one. So does that mean it's so bad that it doesn't even make it onto a list of 700 plus Pokemon? Well, technically no, but PvPoke doesn't include any Pokemon with ridiculously low stat products, and because Blacephalon is one of the most attack-weighted Pokemon in the entire game, it falls into that category along with a few other insane glass cannons like Deoxys Attack and Regular Form, as well as Pheromosa. But unlike those Pokemon, this Pokemon is actually pretty good. It's got a 45% win rate in the 1 and 2 shield scenario against the meta, which isn't bad for a Pokemon that doesn't even have enough stats to have a ranking. Now this team was incredibly fun to run. It is a triple debuffing team, but all three Pokemon are pretty glassy, so they kind of need good debuffing moves to be viable, and it was a pretty viable team. I did climb about 150 elo. Sure, I'm not at the highest elo right now, but it's still nice. Now before we get into the question of the day, I want to give a quick shout out to both Colin L and Itiaz Ishmam for their generous donations in yesterday's live stream. Honestly, I really do appreciate their support, and if you're wanting to catch my next live stream, I'll actually be looking to stream tomorrow or Sunday depending on when you're watching this. So with that being said, now let's just get into the question of the day. What is the most fun glass cannon Pokemon you've ever used in the Go Battle League? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. So heading into the first battle, we lead Tapu Bulu into Annihilate, so a pretty good matchup for us, and honestly my entire team does fairly well here. The opponent's going to say swap into a Steel Wing Empoleon, and yes, obviously swapping a Fire type into a Water type typically isn't a good idea, but we are resisting the Steel Wings, although we're already into the yellow health range, which is crazy. But we're going for a Mystical Fire. Mystical Fire going to debuff their attack. Of course, that's still not going to allow me to tank this next charge move, so I'm going to double shield, but I can now go for a full farm down. I come out with the Shadow Ball loaded. I am just full sending it straight away. Shadow Ball goes unshielded. The opponent calls a bait, and they've got Registeel in the back, and Blacephalon is absolutely burning this team alive. We go for Mystical Fire, grab the final shield. If they do make it to a charge move here, but it doesn't really matter at this point. The damage is done. They take me out with a double resisted focus blast there, but they see Salazzle, and then they just concede the match. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, another Annihilate in the lead. Honestly, I do try to like mix up the sort of battles that you're going to see. They're not in order, but I guess I've just kind of messed this one up. Doesn't really matter too much here, as we go straight for a Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness grabs the shield. I then swap into Salazzle, and the reason I swap out here is I am running an ABB style team. I need to bait out any potential Swampert or any other water types really, and the opponent comes in with Swampert. Now, I've had this issue a few times recently where I've tried to click on the Poison Fang as I'm getting there, because I'm actually not quite sure I'd make it to a Dragon Pulse, but then we actually do make it to the Dragon Pulse, but then for some reason when I'm clicking on Dragon Pulse, it's like already registered the Poison Fang from when I tried to click on it like 2.5 seconds ago, so a bit strange there. But we go for Nature's Madness just on the off chance that the opponent would shield that, but then we swap into our Blacephalon. Honestly, this is not great. These Shadow Claws are doing huge damage. They go for Aerial Ace. We are going to go for a Mystical Fire, of course. This is going to drop their attack, so maybe we can make it to a second Mystical Fire, or of course we actually just make it to a Shadow Ball there instead, but the opponent swaps into their Annihilate. So I'm going to undercharge, just going for a nice, but that still takes out Annihilate. Insane damage. We're going to come in with Tapu Bulu, and the opponent is going to throw as we get a full Bullet Seed in for free. And Tapu Bulu is the bulkiest Pokemon on this team, but it still wins CMP up against Golisopod. We go for Grass Knot as it does slightly more damage than a Nature's Madness. I take out Golisopod, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Shadow Dragonite in the lead, so a pretty good matchup for us, but they are of course going to double resist the Bullet Seeds, but they're going to swap into Tentacruel. Now this is an obvious call breaker for this team. Honestly, I saw a couple of them I think, and I beat one of them, so it wasn't too bad, but yeah, they're going to be able to flip switch advantage, especially since they went for a bait with the Acid Spray. Now, this is just going to be another Acid Spray, so I will no-shield this. I will be able to at least grab a, well, shield advantage, but they're going to be able to fully Poison Jab, farm me down at this point. And since they've already double baited me, they're probably just going to bait up against my Salazzle as well, but I can't really afford to take that risk because I've got something that is double weak to poison in the lead. So we're going to come in with Salazzle. I'm going to use my shield here, and the opponent is actually going to full send the Scald this time around. They swap into Shadow Dragonite. We're going to swap back into our Tapu Bulu here, and of course, unless they're running Hurricane or Hyper Beam, we should be looking very comfortable in this matchup, so I'm going to farm to 100 energy. Unfortunately, we do lose CMP, but that's fine here. Dragon Claw, not going to do an awful lot of damage. We can go for the Nature's Madness, and of course, this will be enough damage to take out the Dragonite, and we're going to come out with a Grass Knot loaded to throw straight away into the Tentacle coming back in. Now, that doesn't quite do enough damage to get the KO, but the opponent's actually going to stop attacking here. And I thought maybe that's intentional. Somehow I don't get off the charge move there. And I think the opponent actually just wanted a slight energy advantage on their Empoleon so they could very easily beat my Salazzle, which makes a lot of sense. Honestly, if I got off that charge move there, I don't think it would have quite made a difference. If I went for 2 Poison Fangs, that's still not going to do much. But if I swapped out there into my Salazzle, got off 2 Poison Fangs, and then landed a Grass Knot, I think I could have won there. But I think I kind of just paused for too long, waiting to see what came in, and we got KO'd by the fast move before I even did anything. But into the next battle, and GG's to that opponent, by the way. We're going to see a Zygarde complete form. Obviously, very strong in the Open Master League, but also probably one of the best ranked Pokemon for the Ultra League as well. But a lot of people, if they only have one, are going to try and power up for the Master League, as it is very dominant there. But either way, they swap into Golisopod. Now, Golisopod also a sort of core breaker to the team, but at least Salazzle can deal neutral damage with the Incinerate damage there. Now they're going to come back in with the Zygarde. We're going straight for Dragon Pulse, and Dragon Pulse is going to grab a shield from the opponent, but we make it to another Dragon Pulse. Are they going to double shield up against a Salazzle? And no, they're not. They're going to swap into another Tentacruel, which is not ideal, but I do at least make it to a Poison Fang. This is their final Pokemon. Poison Fang is actually going to grab the shield, and that is really good news for me. If I didn't grab that shield there, honestly, I think we'd just be losing right now. I'd need to make a very nice catch, which is always very difficult to do with Incinerate, as it's a 5-turn fast move. It's pretty easy to throw a charge move in between fast moves, but Shadow Ball takes out the Tentacruel, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Lucario in the lead. So of course, we've got 2 fire types in the back. Gonna swap into my Salazzle, and I have to say, there were a lot of Swampert in the back. So Salazzle didn't have the best time, but it's there for a reason. It's to give Blacephalon the best chance of sweeping in the end game. And here, we're just gonna let Salazzle go down. They actually shielded that Dragon Pulse there against a non-Shadow Swampert. Dragon Pulse not going to do that much damage, but I guess if we did land the Dragon Pulse, I could have just fully committed to a Bullet Seed farm down, and I'm not certain they could be running Sludge Wave, so I shield. It's just an Earthquake, so definitely didn't need to shield that, but that's fine. At this point, just going to go for a Grass Knot, throwing before they make it to the Hydro Cannon, and we take out the Swampert. Now they come back in with Lucario. We're going straight for Nature's Madness, and then I will swap into Blacephalon. We debuff their defense, and look at that Incinerate damage. That does like 40% of that Lucario's health. We're going to shield up the Shadow Ball, and the opponent has a Venusaur in the back. Now Mystical Fire going to hit for super effective damage, but Shadow Ball does even more damage here, and we're able to take them out with one more Incinerate, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Tapu Bulu into Umbreon. So a very good lead matchup for us. Definitely where we want to see it. Salazzle has a reasonably neutral matchup, but Blacephalon is definitely going to struggle up against this bulky Dark-type Pokemon. At this point, they are staying in here, so I'm also going to stay in. I'm going to wait to see what the opponent wants to do. They go for Last Resort, and we are going to Overfarm. Going to throw on the CMP tie, and if they shield, I'm actually going to consider shielding, because the fact they're staying into a bad matchup and shielding against this Pokemon kind of implies that maybe they are weak to Tapu Bulu in the back. So again, actually no, never mind, not gonna overfarm this time around, going straight for the Nature's Madness, and then at this point I'm actually gonna swap into my Salazzle just in case they have something like that Swampert in the back there, which I need to bait out and preserve some of the health on my Tapu Bulu to take out. But we go for the Dragon Pulse. That does some decent damage up against the Shadow variant of Swampert. It does put them into farm down range, but they do overfarm just the right amount here where they can live a Bullet Seed and make it to a Hydro Cannon after 2 Mud Shots. So not ideal for me. I might just barely live this, but it's not going to be that great for us, as actually that will allow them to farm me down. And again, a Golisopod in the back. So we baited out a Water type, but they had double Water. So up against a double Fire backline, double Water, typically going to do very well. I had to no shield there. I knew it was a bait, but you wouldn't know that was a bait there if you looked at the damage, because that nearly one-shot us, but GG's there. I knew Umbreon still had a charge move loaded, so I kind of just had to let that one go through. Now, but the opponent's going to come in here with a Cresselia, but they're running Confusion, which is not ideal for me because I would typically just swap into my Salazzle, but on Confusion, that's not going to be a particularly good matchup. They're probably not running Future Sight, so eventually I probably will swap out into one of the 2 fire types that I've got in the back. But let's just see, we go for a second Nature's Madness, this time grabbing a shield, and now we're going to swap into Blacephalon. Now, I'm very confident that they're not going to run Future Sight, but even if they do have Future Sight, that probably was not enough energy for it. Now the opponent's going to swap into Annihilate. They do make a catch for the Mystical Fire, but it doesn't really matter. This is going to drop their attack, and they're still going to have to throw 2 tickets out here. Otherwise, I'd make it to another Mystical Fire. So at this point, Night Sash going to be taking us out, but that's absolutely okay. We're going to wait out the switch clock come in with the Salazzle, as I know I am resisting the counters. We've dropped their attack, and the opponent throws straight away as well, which is very unnecessary. Possibly thinking that I was going to go for a Poison Fang immediately, but that wouldn't make an awful lot of sense there. They're now going to come back in with the Poliwrath. We go for a Poison Fang straight away. Going to go for 1 extra Incinerate, and this time I am full sending the Dragon Pulse. We've dropped their defense. This is going to do big damage if it connects, and it does connect as the opponent saving their shield for my Tapu Bulu, but we're so low where we can probably just fast move farm them down. The opponent swaps into Cresselia. I expected that swap, so I also swap into my Tapu Bulu. We go for the Nature's Madness. The opponent here is not going to commit to a full farm down. I think either way it would have been fine. Salazzle lives either a Grass Knot or a Moonblast, as they are double resisted. Honestly, we'd probably tank it just as comfortably as that Confusion there, but we come out with a Poison Fang loaded. We take out the Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Internet's going to see a Muck in the lead, so unfortunately not very good at all. So we're going to swap into our Salazzle. The opponent going to stay in initially, then swapping into Poliwrath. Now, this is a matchup that I can flip with such a significant energy advantage, but let's see. We're going to go for the Poison Fang, and then once again, going for the Dragon Pulse. If they no-shield this, I very easily flip this matchup, but the opponent does end up shielding. At this point, I'm just going to call a bait here. Either they bait and they don't take me out and I make it to another Poison Fang, or they take me out and full send a Scald. But either way, that's fine. I realize Blacephalon still going to be resisting the Poison Jab damage from that Muck, so maybe it can sweep in the end game. Gonna no shield once again. That probably is a bit of a strange play there, just because Blacephalon doesn't have much bulk here. Of course, if I've got a Pokemon with very little bulk and they have a Pokemon that has a lot of fast move pressure, like a Shadow Dragonite, then unfortunately it's just going to be game over here. We go for the Shadow Ball. It does grab a shield there, and there's not a lot we can do. We are very low. I've got 2 shields. I couldn't remember how low the Muck was, so I'm actually going to shield here, hoping I can make it to back-to-back charge moves, and somehow that a Grass Knot would KO. But that Muck was pretty much still at full health, so even if we got off the charge move there was no way we were winning that game. But GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we're going to see a Suicune in the lead. I am going to throw straight away, and the opponent makes a very nice catch. Usually, I do just not throw straight away. I'll wait 1 turn, but sometimes opponents will throw like the wrong move, but they'll throw straight away, so then I wasn't expecting that, and then I wouldn't even get the fast move through, so a bit awkward there, but it doesn't really matter. And as well, I bait, which seems pretty bad, but now this will allow me to shield once, go for the farm down, and I have a Shadow Ball loaded. Now, the opponent comes in with a Tyrantrum, which is very spicy, but Shadow Ball nearly one-shots them, which is insane damage. I can actually now come in with my Tapu Bulu and go for a full Bullet Seed farm down, and we come out with a ton of loaded energy. Now, this is their final Pokemon. I might as well just start going for Nature's Madness, as Nature's Madness will be dropping their defense. I'm definitely going to shield this up. The opponent goes for the Ice Beam, so if I have counted right, then I should be able to make a catch onto my Salazzle, so that's what I'm going to go for here. We go for Nature's Madness, go for 1 extra Bullet Seed, we make the catch onto Salazzle. This should just be an Ice Beam here. Ice Beam is resisted, and at this point, I'm not going to bother throwing a Poison Fang. I think that is my lose condition, and that allows the opponent to farm to 100 energy. Instead, we full send the Dragon Pulse, we take out the Suicune, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Internet's going to see Tapu Bulu into Venusaur. So obviously not great for us. Gonna swap into Salazzle, and the opponent stays in for ages before eventually swapping into Giratina. And someone asked me a few days ago, a bit of a controversial topic for my controversial video that I made. They said, is it better to throw a debuffing move straight away or try and throw it on good timing? And you're going to find out with this battle, if I threw it straight away, I could have taken them out with just slightly more damage from 1 Incinerate. I could have flipped that matchup, and up against a Venusaur, our Blacephalon would have been a pretty good position, but unfortunately we don't have the right alignment. But then I swap anyways, and this is just dumb. I think I should have stayed in with my Tapu Bulu, possibly even grabbed a shield up against that Empoleon, and if not, then I could have at least put them into farm down range without having to use both my shields on my Blacephalon. And you're going to see here that unfortunately, even with resisted fast move damage, they've got me into the yellow health range. I know Venusaur's Frenzy Plant will take us out, so I stopped attacking there just to make sure they didn't make that catch, and they do eventually swap out. We get off the Mystical Fire, but my Switch Clock is not up yet, and that Incinerate has done a lot of damage, but I don't think that's Nature's Madness range, so unfortunately, it looks like we will be losing this one. Bullet Seeds, of course, double resisted, doing very little damage. Nature's Madness doesn't get the KO. They can fire off a Sludge Bomb, and that's going to hit for double super effective. It easily takes out the Tapu Bulu, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there. Internet's going to see Mandibuzz, so a bit of a neutral lead here, of course. Both hitting full resisted damage with the fast moves. And again, the opponent makes a nice catch, catching Nature's Madness onto a Nidoqueen. We're going to swap into our Salazzle, and if the opponent throws before we make it to a Dragon Pulse, then that's not going to be an Earth Power. So we're going to go and fire off the charge move first, grab the shield, and they throw straight away. So they give me a full Incinerate in for free. As I did mention at the start of the video, I'm at fairly low elo, so not what most optimal timing of fast moves from the opponent, but we're now going to go for a Dragon Pulse. Unfortunately, not running Fire Blast, but the opponent shields anyway, so I could have maybe gotten away with going for a Poison Fang bait there, but then that would reveal my entire moveset, and they'd know they wouldn't have to shield anything. So either way, that's probably the best case scenario we could have got out of that. Now, I'm not going to come in with my Blacephalon just because a Rock Slide probably one-shots us. So we're going to tank the Rock Slides here. Rock Slide should be doing less damage than an Aerial Ace from that Mandibuzz, as Aerial Ace, whilst not the best move, does at least hit for super effective damage. And at this point, I'm going to farm to nearly 100 energy, go for a Grass Knot. I was just hoping the opponent isn't going to make another catch there. Grass Knot gets the KO. And at this point, I'm going to shield this. I will go for Nature's Madness straight away, and then I'm going to have to make a catch here because, of course, Mandibuzz has the tools to take out the rest of my team. So we are going to swap, make the catch. Hopefully, this is just an Aerial Ace. And Aerial Ace not actually going to do much damage up against Blacephalon. They're going to have to throw another Charge Move pretty much straight away, and that should allow my Tapu Bulu to make it to a Charge Move, assuming we live the Snarl damage, and we do just barely get there in time. Nature's Madness, of course, we've already dropped their defense. We'll be taking out the Mandibuzz, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Internet's going to see Tapu Bulu into Tapu Fini. So Battle of the Tapus. Obviously, this is a good matchup for us. And we're going to see the opponent once again trying to make a catch. This time I actually do intentionally throw the Nature's Madness because it is a Poison and Dark type Pokemon. So of course, going to hit for neutral, and again, opponent throwing on poor timing. But not only that, they just settled for an Acid Spray. So I definitely just no shield there. I think even a Dark Pulse, that wouldn't take me out anyway, so I'm not that bothered. But we can go for back-to-back Poison Fangs here. The first one, going to do some decent damage. The second, we're going to do even more damage now as we have dropped their defense. And the opponent is not going to commit to a full Water Gun farm down. It would have been close there, but I feel like they should have overfarmed more than that at least. But then I'm going to go for a Nature's Madness, which is a bit strange. And then drop my defense, get slightly more water guns through, and they come in with a Surf Edge. We get a frame drop there, but luckily for me, that's not going to be costly, as we can still tank that. We can come in with Blacephalon, and at this point, again, opponent throwing on poor timing. I can just shield this, go for a full Incinerate farm down. I'm going to come out with 100 energy. I could bait, but there's no point. We've already got a charge reloaded on Tapu Bulu, so even if they do water gun farm me down, it doesn't really matter. But I send two Shadow Balls back to back. The first one, grabbing that final shield, the second one taking out the Tapu Fini, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there, and what I will say is that running Incinerate users at a low elo is actually a very effective strategy because opponents maybe not going to throw on the best timing, so that does allow full sneaks, and getting one Incinerate in for free is very nice. Of course, this opponent can't do anything about that because they're also running Incinerate, so I'm always going to get an Incinerate in for free there. But we're going to throw on the CMP tie, and of course, this Poison Fang would get the KO, so the opponent going to use their shield. But I'm hoping, because we've double debuffed their defense, and since they haven't swapped out here, Blacephalon can come in, go for an Incinerate farm down, and they're not going to have a pretty good response to it either. So going to go for that farm down, and we do get it in just 2 Incinerate. So very nice. They're going to come in with Cresselia. I'm just full sending the Shadow Ball. Cresselia, one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the Ultra League, but that nearly takes them out there. We're going to swap, bank some energy, and they come in with a Registeel. Now this looks bad on paper, but we do typically resist the moveset from Registeel. Of course, Zap Cannon and Focus Blast both going to be resisted. So actually, this is going to be pretty comfortable now that we are running Nature's Madness. We can drop their defense. You can see that second one does a lot more damage here. Gonna no shield, and the opponent is running Flash Cannon, and that takes us out, unfortunately. I go for the Incinerate Farm down, but they live just about. And also, I throw the Charge Move here just to try and hopefully allow the opponent to just let that go through, thinking they can save their shield for the Cresselia, but unfortunately they do shield. They've got a Charge Move loaded, and it's going to be a Moonblast, which is resisted damage. It still takes out Blacephalon, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Nidoqueen in the lead, so a bit unfortunate there. Gonna swap into our Salazzle, and this is not enough energy for an Earth Power, so I'm definitely gonna no shield. And now they're gonna swap into a Giratina. So once again, going to go for the Poison Fang first, and then I will go for a Dragon Pulse if the opponent does overfarm, which they do end up doing. And Dragon Pulse is going to do huge damage. I could flip this if I shield here, but I think Blacephalon down a shield probably not going to be that good. So instead, we've put them into range where even Bullet Seed's still not going to do that much damage, so I will nearly come out with a Charge Move loaded, which isn't that bad of a thing. They're going to go for a Dragon Claw there, so of course double resisted. We swap into Blacephalon, and we are core breaking their team right now, at least in terms of resisting fast move damage. Of course, both ground and the ghost typing are going to hit for super effective damage, but we can go farm to 100 energy, go for a Mystical Fire. Mystical Fire is going to be no shielded by the opponent. We can just fire off another Mystical Fire, and at this point we're looking to be in a pretty decent position here. We grab that first shield from the opponent, we make it to another Mystical Fire. Unfortunately, not quite before they throw a Poison Fang here, and Poison Fang does drop my defense. Doesn't really matter though. We can go for another Mystical Fire, and at this point I was confident that even if they did make it to a Poison Fang with the double drop to their attack, I think I could have lived it. So we come in with Tapu Bulu, we get to a Grass Knot, we take out the Nidoqueen, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to the opponent there. Into next game, we see another Poliwrath in the lead. So of course, pretty good matchup for us. I'm going to wait a turn there just to make sure they don't make a catch, as a lot of opponents have caught Charge Moves up against me. And now you can see Nature's Madness doesn't quite get the one shot there. Grass Knot does slightly more damage, but it doesn't really matter. But the opponent's going to swap into Nidoqueen. I'm just barely able to swap out there before the opponent makes it to the full farm down, which is good for me. And they full send an Earth Power. So at this point, just going to go for a Dragon Pulse here. And Dragon Pulse going to do some decent damage in this matchup. They do end up shielding, but once again I'm going to go for the Poison Fang there, but it doesn't register. So then I go and click on the Dragon Pulse, but then it registered to Poison Fang. That was very strange. It doesn't really matter though, as the opponent ends up shielding, so it actually works out in my favor there, so a bit lucky. But we're going to see the opponent comes in with a Shadow for Alligator, and we go straight for the Shadow Ball, and this Shadow for Alligator is going to be straight in and straight out. Shout out to Jamie Finn for that phrase there, and we can just Incinerate, farm down the Poliwrath to take that game. So GG to the opponent there. Into next game, Nightmare lead. We lead into a Heatran. So we've actually saw quite a lot of bad leads, but we've also fought back from a lot of them. So let's see if we can fight back from this bad lead. Unfortunately, I throw on terrible timing there. It is a little bit difficult when you both swap out at very different times with very different turn duration fast moves. But that's still not an excuse. I should be doing better there. At this point, I should live a Charge Move, but I'm going to shield anyways. Typically, Mandibuzz doesn't bait up against Salazzle, at least when I've played it in the Great League. But that opponent does bait. They go for an Aerial Ace. We're going to go for a Poison Fang, and I'm pretty confident I should be able to live this. The opponent goes for Dark Pulse, and we do hang on. So we flip switch advantage, and we are able to get the new mechanic as well, or damage registration error, as some people like to call it, because it's definitely not new. But they're going to come in with a Trevenant, and those Incinerates chunked, but also the Shadow Claws get us very close to the yellow health range already. We're going to take the Shadow Ball, not particularly comfortably, but we can make it to Nature's Madness. Now, this is very awkward. If I undercharge this, I'm still going to take a lot of damage from the Shadow Claws there, so I did actually just do enough of the charge there to take them out. But now the opponent can go for a Magma Storm, and again, trying to throw on good timing means the opponent gets off another Magma Storm before I debuff them, and Magma Storm is enough damage to get the KO. So unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Rayquaza in the lead. Now, this is a very weird one, because you're going to see here, this is where I'm trying to wait one turn to make sure they don't make a catch, but instead the opponent just goes for a Breaking Swipe straight away, which means, of course, I'm not going to do much damage there, but I don't get a full fast move in for free, so that's very annoying there. And it's why at some points I did just throw the charge move straight away. Bit of a weird play from the opponent there, but that's fine. They're just going straight Breaking Swipe, so I'm realizing they're probably weak to Tapu Bulu in the back, and I I've got myself very low at this point, so I'm definitely going to shield. I have to be wary of a potential catch, so not going to throw straight away. They come in with Swampert, and this is really dumb. I tried to undercharge. I didn't notice any of the debuffs there that I got from breaking swipes, so I thought I could go for the farm down there, but honestly, I probably should have just fully charged that grass knot. I don't know why, I just didn't notice any of the debuffs. So at this point, Blacephalon's like, well, you've massively misplayed this game, but don't worry, I'm here to save the day. We're going to go for a full Incinerate farm down, coming out with a ton of loaded energy. If they come back in with Rayquaza, I'm definitely just going to throw the charge move straight away, and Shadow Ball is going to be enough damage to one-shot the Rayquaza. The opponent's got a Charizard in the back, but it doesn't matter. Again, we make it to Shadow Ball number 2, and Shadow Ball once again one-shots the Charizard, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game we see Tapu Bulu into Cresselia. So fairly neutral matchup. We probably do just slightly lose this, especially if they are running Future Sight. But I'm going to stay in initially. If they go for Moonblast, I'm probably going to swap into my Salazzle. But let's see, the opponent is going to go for a Future Sight, so that does a lot of damage there. I think actually I'm going to probably swap anyways. Yeah, we kind of need to swap out there. They come in with a Tapu Fini, so we're going to go for a Poison Fang. And if the opponent doesn't throw straight away here, I should be able to make it to a second Poison Fang before they do farm me down. Oh, sorry, before they throw a Surf. But actually, I'm going to shield this. I feel like I should be able to lift the Water Gun damage and make it to 2 more Poison Fangs. So we throw the first one, we got the shield there, and we do make it to that next Poison Fang. So of course, Poison Fang is going to be grabbing both shields from the opponent. I've got a charge move on my Tapu Bulu, but actually I'm thinking about just sacrificing it here and then coming in with my Blacephalon, getting an energy advantage, and then maybe sweeping with my Blacephalon, as it is a Blacephalon showcase. But in the end, maybe that's not going to be the best case here for us, as we see the opponent full sends a Future Sight. I hadn't been keeping track of the energy, so instead I just go for a Shadow Ball straight away. I needed to over farm here because Shadow Ball takes them out here, but we are now shields down, and shields down Blacephalon is going to lose pretty much everything. Even up against Annihilate here, they only make it to a Night Slash, but it doesn't matter. Night Slash hits for super effective. It easily takes us out there, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to Oppo there into the final battle of this video. We lead into a shiny Shadow Dragonite, so a very cool flex from the opponent there. They're going to swap into a Zygarde, so very strange team composition so far. Incredibly weak to Fairy and incredibly weak to Ice as well. But we're going to go for Nature's Madness number 2, and the opponent's just going to fully sacrifice it. So let's see what their third Pokemon is, as I assume they're not going to come in with the Dragonite, and they come in with Feraligatr. So Tapu Bulu completely destroys this team, but unfortunately my back line gets completely destroyed by all 3 Pokemon on their team. So Tapu Bulu going to try and need to carry this team here, but it's still going to be quite risky, as we have taken a fair amount of damage on our Tapu Bulu already. They're going to go for the Hydro Cannon, taking out the Salazzle, but luckily for me, they threw on the CMP tie, which they do end up losing. We're going to come in with Blacephalon, and again, throwing on poor timing there, which means the Incinerate will be taking out the Feraligatr. We can just go straight for the Shadow Ball, but the opponent will be able to farm me down here, so I need to swap out straight away. They've got a decent amount of energy at this point, and from this range, Superpower will very nearly take us out, so I'm going to no-shield, call the bait, and it is just a Dragon Claw, which is really nice for me. At this point, this is game over. They can't store 3 Dragon Claws back to back to back. We can now go for the Nature's Madness, easily taking out the Shadow Dragonite, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.